It is now time for the Bible Answers program, in which we present a frank and earnest discussion of Bible truths in an endeavor to answer your questions. Our subject for this program is What's Wrong with the World? I have a letter. It reads, Dear Frank and Ernest, what is wrong with the world? Our way of life is a system of wars, impossible taxes, immoralities, physical and mental illnesses, famines, and many more unpleasant problems. Does the Bible give any assurance that when my children grow up, world conditions will be any better than they are now? So now, Frank, this worried parent expresses the question of millions of others, and I ask that question to you. What is the world coming to?
Russell, fundamentally, human selfishness is at the root of the world's troubles. If the Golden Rule was practiced by all nations, groups, and individuals, our major problems would soon disappear.
Our friend wants a more complete answer than that. I doubt if the world is any more selfish today than it was 100 years ago, yet conditions throughout the earth then were a whole lot better than they are now.
The good old days, in other words.
Probably not as good as we would like to think they were, but still global wars and hydrogen bombs were not known. What our friend wants to know is why in this century of progress we have been brought to the very brink of ruin with no one knowing how to prevent the situation from becoming worse. Does the Bible give us a real answer to her question?
Yes, Russell, it does. The present situation in the world had its start with the First World War in 1914. I remember reading a book in which the author ridiculed what he called the prophets of doom, referring to those who were calling attention to the Bible's prophecies of what was coming upon the earth.
I would be interested in your telling us what some of these prophecies were.
Well, one of the most pointed ones is the first verse of the 12th chapter of the prophecy of Daniel. He says that at that time shall Michael stand up, and there shall be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation. Isn't that a very graphic description of what the world has been going through since the First World War of 1914?
Yes. How do we know that Daniel's prophecy of a time of trouble applies to the time of trouble that we have in our day?
Well, in Daniel's prophecy, he says that the time of trouble would result from the standing up of Michael. The disciples asked Jesus what would be the signs of his return and the end of the age, and one of the signs, he said, would be great tribulation as spoken by Daniel the prophet. So it is obvious that the Michael of Daniel's prophecy is one of the titles the Bible applies to Jesus.
I see. In other words, Jesus at his second advent is the Michael of Daniel's prophecy.
Yes, the prophecy which states that when the time comes for Michael to stand up, there would come trouble upon the earth, trouble such as never was since there was a nation.
You know, Frank, you have me puzzled.
Why?
Well, you have told us in the past that Christ's return is for the purpose of establishing a worldwide government of peace and security, which will make an end of war and provide health and everlasting life for the people.
Yes, Russell, that is true. That is what the Bible teaches.
But the idea of a time of trouble, worse than anything the world has ever experienced at Christ's return, is completely out of harmony with the concept of peace and goodwill, which is to result from his return. Aren't these two viewpoints quite incompatible?
No, Russell, not when viewed in the light of the entire testimony of the prophecies relating to our time. The prophecies of the Bible reveal that our social order does come to an end as a result of Christ's return.
What you're saying is that the first result of Christ's return to establish the kingdom promised in the Bible is the removal of our present unsatisfactory social order.
That's right, and actually, man in his selfishness destroys his own world So this great time of trouble upon the nations must immediately precede the full manifestation of Christ's kingdom of blessing.
But Frank, here is something else. For centuries the world has progressed toward a good civilization. Possibly Christ's kingdom is merely a further advancement of this progress. Many accept this viewpoint.
I know they do, but it is not the viewpoint presented in the Bible. Civilization has advanced all the way from the slingshot of King David's day to the nuclear bombs of our time. The only way human wisdom knows of enforcing peace on earth is with bigger and better bombs and ballistic missiles. But that is not the real way, not the Lord's way, to establish peace.
Well, I know you have a point there. Getting back to the question, what's wrong with the world? The answer then is that we are passing through a transition period, that the old world is dying, and the Lord is preparing to establish a new social order. Is that your thought?
Yes, and the reason that man's world is dying is that it is based upon and motivated by selfishness. But now the time is near for Christ to establish his rulership of justice and love.
Frank, you speak of Christ taking control of earth's affairs, and that Christ will not work through the present selfish institutions of the earth. Just how will Christ's kingdom control mankind if not through human cooperation?
Russell, Jesus said that some erred not knowing the power of God. Let us not forget that the almighty power of the Creator guarantees the successful functioning of Christ's kingdom. The first manifestation of that power was in the resurrection of Jesus from the dead. His enemies had put him to death, but God raised him from the dead in order that in his own due time he might be a mighty ruler to establish peace on earth as the Prince of Peace.
But, Frank, that was a long time ago, 2,000 years, and the world is in greater chaos today than ever before. That's why people are asking us, what's wrong with the world?
The true church has been developed during that 2,000 years you speak of, and God has promised to raise them from the dead, even as he raised Jesus from the dead. At the end of the age, these are brought forth in what the Bible calls the first resurrection, so that they might live and reign with Christ 1,000 years.
Will Jesus and his followers then reign on this earth as visible human beings?
No, Russell. They will be the divine, invisible rulers in the new kingdom. But he will have visible human representatives who will carry out his directives. These were chosen thousands of years ago. Righteous Abel was the first, John the Baptist the last. These ancient worthies will be the human representatives of the kingdom. We can bear with the uncertain conditions of the present in the assurance that a new and better world is near. This viewpoint is clearly established in the little book, God and Reason. Russell, that parent who sent in the question, what's wrong with the world, will find a complete answer in the little book, God and Reason. Will you tell our friends how they might get one free?
I will be glad to, Frank. Friends, if you really want to know the Bible's answer to the question, what's wrong with the world, you should read the little book, God and Reason. Today the world is hopelessly adrift on the stormy seas of selfish human passions. And we ask ourselves, is there a way out? Is there anything upon which we may build our hopes for better days to come? God and Reason says yes. It will give you real hope for the future. Other questions answered are, how can we know that the Genesis story of creation is true? Is there hope for those who have died in unbelief? How do we know that the human race will not be destroyed by nuclear bombs? God and Reason gives you the answer to many questions vital to your peace and happiness. So send for God and Reason today.
To view the booklet online, visit www.dawnbible.com, or to receive a hard copy of the booklet by mail, send an email to dawnbiblerequest@gmail.com. Include your name and postal mailing address and ask for the booklet by name. The booklet will be mailed to you free and without obligation. And now, goodbye, and may God bless you.